for once. Nice and calm. You're almost there.
Yeah, I did it. I cried 2 tears in a bucket. Fuck it. Let's take it to the stage.
You dig it? You knock a dude down, you get some respect.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Well, hold on for a second. We got some more things in the background. How you guys doing today? Happy Monday and all that kind of good stuff. Welcome to the Black Man Unfiltered Network. And here we are again with another one. It seems like Mondays are coming around like every day is a Monday, which is cool. So we're gonna wait for some folks to come on in here. And we're going to chop it up a little bit, but we're going to talk a little bit about the oldest profession. I'm not so sure if I've talked about that with you guys at all. It's not like I'm an expert at it since I've been married for such a long time. But even when I wasn't married, it wasn't one of the things that I had to do. Go ahead and solicit the sweet ladies of the night. That wasn't one of the things, but I knew they were out there. You know, I lived in the Bronx and we had places where they would hang out and stuff like that. But we're going to talk a little bit about how women are actively, selling themselves. And it seems like it's like legal. Nobody's saying anything about it. But anyway, I guess you guys can hear me. Well, before we get started, man, I've been watching a lot of shows on streaming networks. I don't know about you guys, but I tell you what, Welcome to Derry, the It series, it's just off the chain. So if you like shows like that, horror from Stephen King and stuff like that, man, Welcome to Derry is just off the chain, man. It really, really is. And it goes right, the storytelling with It, part 1 and 2, the recent series, and it comes out in the movies, the recent movies, it's all tied together. So check that out. I'm watching the new Robin Hood. What else is out there? Fallout. There's a couple other shows on streaming media that's worth watching. So if you like media, and things of that nature, don't miss it. Okay, so again, why are we here today? We're going to talk about the oldest profession and should it be legal or shouldn't it be legal? And if y'all want to pop up and talk about that, we could do that and stuff like that as well. All right, so this is the whole title. Women are openly selling box on TikTok and other social media. Now, is it time to legalize prostitution? Is it time or is it already de facto legalized? What do you guys think? What do you think? I remember when the DAs were going after rappers for putting their crimes in music and blasting things up over social media, and they were coming after them with a vengeance, right? The recent YSL case. Now, nobody's saying prostitution's at the level of deletions and robbery and violence like that. But some of these women are so blatant with it that if they ever got busted, their words could be used against them, right? Because they're just straight out talking about how they're selling it, And does that bother anybody? I mean, is it a victimless crime? Is it doing a public service? What do you guys think it's doing? And it doesn't really matter because men and women have been bartering over sex since the beginning of time, correct? Is there anything new about it? And maybe that's why nobody's really going crazy over, whether women are selling the box publicly and openly. And there's layers to it, right? You got the streetwalkers, and then you got the women who are escorts and, who hide it under certain other things. People even say being a wife is like a high-powered escort. Now, I disagree with that assertion because I'm married, but I have some reasons, and we'll talk about that in a minute or two in terms of that. But aren't all sexual, not all, but aren't most casual relationships, situationships, and even some marriages, isn't the sex in a lot of these instances, especially with the situationships, all transactional, right? I give you this, I give you that, and then you give me the box, right? Isn't that what a lot of these relationships are like? All transactional, so does that make it good or bad? Where do you put that? And do you believe that's true? When does sexual relationship become validational? When you do it because you want to be with each other and you're validating your affection for the other person. And how do you graduate to that? And should you be married to anybody? Should you marry a woman where your sexual lovemaking or your sexual battle rhythm remains in the transactional layer as opposed to the validational one? Should you get married under those circumstances? Shouldn't that be part of your vetting process? If you're a guy and you want to ask a woman to marry you, if you're still bartering for her sexual affections, is that somebody you should marry? You tell me. Where does that leave you? When she could use sex as a weapon or a reward. You know what I'm saying? So did you even think about that, you guys who want to get married? Is that important to you? Those are the kind of things I think men need to be thinking about, since, you're the one taking the big risk, I say, of getting married, especially under the laws that currently exist. And then we start thinking about sexless marriages and all that kind of shit and what makes those happen. So should you marry somebody if your sexual life with her is still transactional? And none of your sexual lovemaking is on a validational level. She always got to be rewarded for putting up with your stupid advances. I saw a recent story. I think, of course, it was fictional, where a woman told her husband that she wanted a 30-day moratorium on whether he could touch her, even hold her hand. He said, I don't want you touching me unless you ask my permission first, because she was like some hardened feminist. I was wondering why she got married anyway. And he ended up divorcing her because she said, hey, listen, if you want some of this box, you got to get my permission. And for the most part, you could expect me to say no most of the time. And he just couldn't live under those conditions. So, that's really a far-fetched situation. But there's a lot of men living in sexless marriages, a lot of them. And one of the things I wanted to say is I'm going to show a real quick icebreaker video. And I think you guys will like this one. Let me go ahead and get it started really quick. Let me make sure it's right so BMU doesn't get on my case. All right.
Hey, babe. So funny thing is, we need to pay the rent, and I haven't really paid. I haven't paid it, and so I was thinking.
Oh, you ain't got to worry about the rent. I already handled it.
You already handled the rent.
Yeah, I went down to the office, paid rent for the next 2 months, so we good.
You paid the rent up for 2 months, right?
Now we ain't got to worry about it. You feel me?
Oh, wow. Okay. Wanted to go get my nails and toes done, and I know you told me you would give me the money for that today. So,
baby, I already gave it to you.
You didn't give me the money.
Check your shirt.
Baby.
You're fresh from the bank.
I didn't really feel like cooking today, so I figured we could kind of just order in.
You ain't got to worry about cooking. I already made reservations at the restaurant.
Baby, you okay?
Wait, you did what now? You made plans?
Yeah, I made plans. I made reservations at this Italian spot. That's cool, right?
Yeah, that's cool. It's real cool.
Perfect.
Is there anything that I can do for you? Because you've done so much.
All you got to do is keep being amazing. Keep being you.
Just keep being me. I've never been so enthused to give head before in my life. Let's look. Come on, let me get you some head.
The guy had to give up his shirt. I mean, you know, this is a stupid ass skit, but you know, suppose you had to go through all that just to get some head from your honey, man. You know, that's crazy. You know, so I would say that, you know, I mean, this is they're probably just in some kind of situationship, and I could dig it, but. You know, so she was in the mood because she was getting all these things on the other side from this dude that she wasn't expecting. But you would say that that was a purely transactional relationship that she had with this guy, right? He had to do all these things just to get some head, right? So can you imagine living your life with a woman as a guy where you had to do all those things before she would even be interested in doing a sloppy toppy? You know, I think that's crazy. So one of the things I was saying to guys is that even before you get married, if you're going to get married, if you're in a situationship, like I said this before, I really don't give a shit, you know, whether it's transactional or validational or not. You know, it's a situationship. It's going to break up as soon as the first situation happens. So you're just bullshitting with each other, just biding time. But if you're going to get married as a guy, you know, you gotta make sure your situation elevates from being purely transactional to where your woman actually wants to be with you, and she's not keeping score. Now, of course, you gotta remember all the things that got her enamored with you in the first place, but that's not the point. The point really is that when you actually get down, is it a validation of your affections for each other, or is it just waiting for the next thing you do good for her? You know, and you need to know the difference, right? So I'm just throwing that out there. Well, it's not the main topic of today, but that's my retort to people saying that marriage is just another way for prostitution. I think that's bullshit because of the validational aspects of your lovemaking. You know, if it's tit for tat, you're not going to stay married that long. You know, you just won't. It's not going to. You're going to be in a miserable marriage if it's tit for tat. So on both sides, but mainly for the woman, since she's the bearer of that. And the last thing I'm going to say on this, and we're going to move on, is that, of course, your wife is obligated to give you sex. And you're obligated to take care of the 4 P's for her, right? The you know, what they always say, you got to, you know, provide, protect, procreate, and problem solve. Okay, so you got to do the 4 P's. But is it just obligation? Is it just duty? Or is it something that gives you purpose for your family to make sure that they got all of the, that you can give them? You know, so it's more than just an obligation. And on the flip side, you know, do you want your woman to just give you sex because she's obligated? You know, your wife she's obligated to give you some obligation ass, okay? So even if she's laying there, looking at you saying, God damn it, you know, when is this shit going to be over? You know, I mean, do you really want your wife just to be giving you sex for obligation? Or, you know, sometimes would you like her just to want to give you some pussy? Right? Sometimes you just want your woman to just give you some ass because she wants to. Not out of obligation, not out of anything else, because she's still attracted to you. Yeah, you know, that's much better, right? So you got to make sure you're there before you get married. So that's just another public service announcement for your favorite baby boomer. All right, so what are we talking about some more? Should have you guys been listening and looking at TikTok and social media lately about all the different streams and things about, women just outwardly selling box, telling other women what to do, telling men how much they're worth, even probably leaving clues on how you can even contact them for, a session, that kind of stuff. I think that's really something. Nobody's going to jail over it. The cops are not spending any time trying to track these women down, but they're actually so-called in a lot of areas breaking the law. And I don't think it's even close. So I think there's already a tacit approval of women actually selling box on the internet. So here's I guess a little clip that I'm gonna play for you where a guy goes through the whole gambit of, and I'll let him explain it. Why is prostitution illegal based on the things we already know? When we know that at some point in our time before religion and everything got involved, it was perfectly legal for women to be prostitutes. So here we go. Bear with me. Let's share this.
They say prostitution is the world's oldest profession. So why is it really illegal? And who's behind that? And when you look at the laws, they certainly raise some questions. Where I live, for instance, you can pay someone to have sex with you on camera. That's legal. You can pay someone to be your girlfriend, give her gifts, cover her rent. And as long as nobody says the transaction out loud, that's fine. But if you hand a woman cash for sex in a hotel room, you're now a criminal. So what exactly are we policing and preventing? I'm Ken LaCourte. I dig into questions that polite people sometimes don't like to touch because they tell us a lot about our society and why the world is the way it is. So here's the elephant in the room. Prostitution has been legal, even celebrated for most of human history, but now it can lead you right to jail. Why? We'll trace the evolution of prostitution throughout history and take a look at the common answers for why it's illegal. Then we'll dig into the concept of strengthening the family with the reason that nobody likes to admit out loud. And finally, we'll examine the female factor and why it matters a lot more than most people realize. So for much of human...
Okay, out of these four items, which factor you think is the biggest factor on why prostitution is not legal? I won't answer that, but you tell me, just put a comment in the chat, and on replay, put it in a comment section if you look at this on replay.
Human history, prostitution wasn't just legal, but in a weird twist, it was actually run by governments and religious leaders. In ancient Mesopotamia, temple brothels were run by the priests of the goddess Ishtar. Some women performed religious sex rituals, others worked on the temple grounds, and the lowest tier walked the streets. It was ordinary civic life, woven into religion and commerce. The Greeks took this and scaled it up. Athens had state-owned brothels that funded public works, including a temple to Aphrodite. Courtesans weren't just prostitutes. The high-end ones were educated companions who dined with philosophers and politicians. They paid taxes, wore distinct clothing, and occupied a recognized place in society. Rome had the same model.
Well, that model still exists today, by the way. We might call it differently, but that's what high-end escorts are. So that model still exists.
Prostitution was legal, taxed, and kind of everywhere. Walk through the ruins of Pompeii, and you'll find brothels etched into the graffiti. There, a visit could cost you what you might pay for a loaf of bread. And then Christianity spread, and the mood shifted. The church shut down pagan temples and pushed prostitution into a lower status. Catholic doctrine declared sex outside the marriage sinful and condemned prostitution outright. But the reality was messier. Church leaders viewed prostitution as a necessary evil that prevented worse sins like rape or the seduction of respectable women. St. Augustine put it bluntly, if you expel prostitution from society, you will unsettle everything on account of lust. That uncomfortable tolerance lasted until the plague and the Protestant Reformation changed everything. The syphilis outbreak of 1494 turned prostitutes into scapegoats. Protestant reformers saw brothels as symbols of Catholic corruption, and they pushed for purity. Catholic leaders, feeling the pressure, they started advocating stricter morals themselves, and by the 1600s, prostitution was criminalized across most of Europe. The 19th century saw crackdowns worldwide. Prior to that, growing industrial cities often had red light districts, like New Orleans' Storyville or San Francisco's Barbary Coast, before reformers shut them down. Today, it's a bit of a patchwork, but in most of the world, it's still largely banned. A few countries have legalized it outright, while others treat it as a serious crime. And in general, laws tend to be a little stricter in Asia and Africa, and very strict in the Middle East. So that's a quick history, but it doesn't really get into the whys. But before that, a little aside. Years back, I had an office in a newsroom where I had a bank of televisions across the wall. And it was the first time that I could clearly visualize media bias in action. Because when you have just one source or point of view for news, it's super hard to see how they're spinning things. That's why I use and really dig today's sponsor, Ground News. Okay, so back to prostitution.
I let them talk about Ground News for just a second, because anybody who's into the political realm, you got to look up Ground News on your own, because they give you from left to right, from right to left, and you can look at how they write the same news story, but with different slant. And it's really interesting stuff. And somewhere in the middle, you might even be able to ferret the truth between the right and the left.
Let's take a look at the most common answers we hear for it being outlawed. The most popular argument is that we're protecting women from exploitation. Progressive era reformers, they worried about white slavery, gangs abducting innocent girls into brothels. And the modern version is similar, with the DOJ prosecuting hundreds of trafficking cases each year. And to be clear, these cases have real victims: women in poverty, runaways, homeless teens, pressured by people or circumstances to turn to prostitution. Opponents of legalization argue that normalizing the sex trade would create more demand, that traffickers could hide victims in the legal system with false documents and threats. But here's the thing.
That's a question, right? Normalizing the sex trade, would it really create more demand than it already is? To tell you the truth, would it really? OnlyFans is a legal entity for women to sell sex without the touch, but it's a multi-billion-dollar industry. It doesn't seem like that's stopping anybody from putting their subscription in, right? Now, if we're talking about physical prostitution, will it be any worse than it is right now if you could tax it and control it? So that's something to ponder. But anyway, let's go.
Voluntary sex work gets lumped together with forced trafficking, and the state justifies arresting women supposedly for their own good. And the women who actually get arrested the most, they're not the high-end escorts, they're the poorer ones. Okay, so public health has been another rationale for centuries, like the syphilis outbreaks I mentioned. In the 1800s, Britain's Contagious Diseases Acts forced suspected prostitutes to submit to invasive medical examinations. During World War I, the U.S. detained thousands of women near American military bases under the American Plan. Okay, so then there's what I call the nuisance factor. When prostitution is visible, residents complain. Cars circling blocks, johns and prostitutes loitering in neighborhoods, and this is why poor people get arrested more than wealthy ones. I mean, if you quietly meet someone and go to a hotel room, few people even notice. But when you're doing your business in a car or someplace more visible, people want you gone. Okay.
Well, but that makes sense, right? If prostitution was legal, would you get more streetwalkers, or would the ladies be able to make deals out in the open where they don't have to be as blatant? You know what I'm saying? Build a clientele. They don't have to turn into high-end escorts, but they could have a ring of low-level clientele, right? So they don't have to be on the corner, right? And giving money to a pimp. That kind of stuff. So I don't know. But if you're having them walk around certain neighborhoods, of course, and cops are gonna, they ain't got nothing to do but eating donuts. They're gonna pick the honeys up, especially if you're using cars in public streets. And as far as the venereal disease outbreak, STIs, whatever you want to call them now, can it get any worse? I guess it can, but it's like extreme levels right now, and prostitution's not quote unquote legal, but people are selling box anyway. They're just doing it anyway.
So these are the reasons we hear the most, but they don't fully explain why prostitution is criminalized almost everywhere, while other risky jobs aren't. I mean, Coal mining kills worker at a rate twice the average person. And it's a hard way to live your life, but it's called honest work. We allow people to sell their blood, rent their wombs as surrogates, and work in all sorts of dangerous jobs that wreck their bodies and their health. If safety were the real concern, legalization with regulation would also work better than pushing everything underground. I mean, if health were the priority, you can look at Nevada's legalized brothels, that they essentially prove that testing and condoms can drop the STD rates to almost zero. So
there you go. There you go. Everybody remembers that HBO documentary about the brothels in Nevada with the fat white guy selling the honeys. And it was mandatory that you protect yourselves. They couldn't do raw dog there.
Common answers are real, but they're not the whole story. And much of that story comes down to strengthening the family unit. Throughout history, even more so than today, we've seen a strong correlation between religion and outlawing prostitution. But why? Now, for believers, the case is simple. Prostitution violates God's design for sex and marriage. It's sinful, it's wrong. But religion also serves a social function beyond theology. Churches have always been enforcers of family cohesion. They marry couples, baptize children, and create community around the nuclear family. Whether you see religious teachings as a divine command or social engineering, the effect is the same.
Okay, is that really true of the churches in the West anymore? Family units with, accepting gay marriages, man on man, woman on women. Those are not traditional families that produce, nuclear outcomes and building community. Not really. So are the churches really that into family building? I'm not so sure that that's just true today. I would probably say in mosques, they're probably more attuned to traditional marriages than the Christian churches. At least that's from the outside looking in. I don't know how corrupt the mosques have become from that level in terms of marriages of men and women, but they might have other corruptions. But I'm not so sure it's just true about the Christian church. They don't even have, they've really secularized almost everything.
Stronger families. And stronger families truly benefit everyone. Countries with more nuclear families.
Here's another thing. Stronger families. When's the last time from the bully pulpit has any, black minister told, people not to have kids out of wedlock? So I just think, I know he means well with this conversation, but I think it's a little outdated. I'm the old one. And I'm saying to him that his message about church and family union right now is not particularly accurate anymore. In the ideal world, yeah, but I don't think that's the way it's just being practiced today. And that's just the church. He's going to get to the state soon, too. And I have the same kind of retort.
Do better across all metrics. They have lower crime and higher income. Children from nuclear families have higher levels of education.
Now, this part is correct, right? From nuclear families. And that's why we know that this shit is dwindling. Nuclear families are dwindling at an alarming rate, especially in some communities. And so this statistic about, the cohesion that makes better communities, that's true. But who's promoting that? If that's not really the church.
Parents are more engaged in their communities and they want to improve them for their kids. They volunteer more, they vote more. Subgroups with higher marriage rates and more nuclear families succeed more on nearly every metric you can measure. For instance, children from married parent homes in the United States, they're about 5 times less likely to live in poverty than kids from single parent homes. On one level, it's basic math. You can earn more with 2 parents. And it's well beyond that, though, because as every parent knows, raising kids takes a lot of resources beyond money, like time and emotional energy. And all of that is easier with 2 people. And these correlations, they hold up across race, religion, income level. Strong families create strong communities. And that's why governments promote marriage. Sometimes it's basic tax breaks or extra financial protections for married people, like letting a surviving spouse get Social Security or other retirement benefits. Governments even offer breaks for other things that encourage families, like buying a home, child tax credits, even subsidized education. And it's also why society celebrates weddings with public.
He moved on to governments, right? And again, it's not, ideally governments promote marriage, but I don't think that's true in Europe. And it's certainly not true here in the United States. Not with who's running the government, not just because it's Republican, Democrat. I don't remember. I don't recall any of the Republicans standing up there, other than maybe in some real far right circles talking about marriage. I believe the new tax credit for having a baby. I still haven't read the whole thing, but I didn't hear that the tax credit was only good for people for kids born within wedlock. I'm not so sure that that's a part of the legislation, right? It's just a tax credit for a newborn, right? Whether you're married or not. And so if you really wanted to promote marriage, how come the marriage thing is not attached to it? And as far as the state being for marriage, well, we know that's a lie, because the state, almost in every state, is oppressive to men when they get married, right? Every man is under, every state has given a woman a loaded gun against a man in marriage, right? And the men are not only not getting married because there's less eligible women, it's that the risks of marrying the kind of women we have today is just too high for a lot of men. You know, and a lot of them are still making a mistake, but not, you know, but a prenup is the more, now prenup is coming out of almost everybody's mouth, whether you got a lot of money or not, right? And still, you need to take the discretion of throwing a prenup out away from the judges, because even good prenups get challenged from time to time. What's that stupid wimpy ass singer's name who played in the Fast and the Furious? He seems to have so much trouble with women, and even with a prenup, he's getting his ass kicked. So these are not good examples of the prenup working for some men. So men get spooked. So yes, if the state is coming down on the men the way they do, how can you say you're really, really promoting marriage? Unless you change a lot of the laws. It's happening, but not fast enough. And you know why it's not happening fast enough, because women are voting.
Vows at a big party. Saying those vows in front of everyone, it puts pressure on people to follow through. For most of our history, and even for a lot of people now, there's an element of shame and embarrassment if your marriage falls apart.
Is it? Is it really? For men, maybe. But is it for women? They walk away from marriage just like it's peanut butter, like they do victory tours like Tia Mowry and never get challenged on it. So I know, and this is not really an old videotape. It's just that he's saying what should be. He's saying what it should be, and not what it really is.
Social pressure isn't comfortable, but it also helps keep families together. Okay, Ken, so where does prostitution fit into all this? Well, marriage also kind of guarantees you a sexual partner. And studies show that married people have more sex than single people. For men who want that, marriage makes it more likely. It's just part of the deal, whether people say it out loud or not. And data from some countries show that clamping down on prostitution increase marriage rates and divorce rates lessen. Prostitution can fill in some marriage needs and lower the number of nuclear families. Easy access to paid sex can make men more selective or just less likely to want to get married. I mean, why commit to a relationship, work through conflict, or build a life with someone when you can pay for what you want and walk away? Now, look, that's obviously a massive oversimplification. Sex isn't the only thing in a relationship or a marriage, but it's a real factor.
But so he's completely overlooking the fact that there's an epidemic of sexless marriages. There'll be a lot of people who contend that they don't have more sex in a marriage than they did when they were, it may be in the beginning, but for the whole marriage, maybe not. And whether prostitution is legal or not, a man who wants a prostitute, he's going to go get one. Maybe not willy-nilly, but we're going to get back to why prostitution is not legal.
Availability of prostitution changes the entire dynamic of courtship and commitment.
That's true.
From a purely economic angle, marriage involves negotiation. Men, they usually offer commitment, resources, and stability. Women, they offer companionship, partnership, and sex. And when one side of that equation becomes easy to buy, the bargaining power shifts. If sex is available on demand for the price of a dinner or a few $100, its value in a relationship diminishes. This isn't just theory. I mean, we've seen what happens when sexual access becomes easier outside of marriage. Generically, as moral standards have changed over the past 50 years and sex outside marriage became more socially acceptable, marriage rates dropped. and the age of first marriages rose, legalized prostitution would push that dynamic even further. So church doctrine and state interest align perfectly. Both want the family preserved. Religious leaders see prostitution as sin and preach against it from the pulpits, and government sees strong families as the foundation of a stable, prosperous society.
And neither this relationship between church and state and marriage is not as strong as he thinks it is on either side. You know, and I know, again, he is stating maybe some facts of old data or some facts from how he views what it should be, but neither the state or the church, I don't see them championing marriages, you know, out, not overtly at all. Not really. They might celebrate once you commit to somebody, but I don't see an all-out push for marriage from the church or the state. Not like they promote the alphabet mafia or some other things like that, or immigrants or anything like that. If the church was really promoting marriage, they would say so. They got tremendous marketing budgets. I don't know, when's the last time you heard the church talk about marriage? Any church, Protestant, Catholic, Jewish synagogues, Muslims, anybody. When's the last time you seen anyone talking about people should get married? And as far as the state, get out of here. I mean, they have advertisements for the army. They have advertisement for the services and all this other shit. But when's the last time you heard any state become a champion of people getting married and overtly talking about it? I can't remember.
But in democracies, laws need votes. I mean, religious leaders can preach and governments can do their tax breaks, but neither can ban prostitution without political support. You need organized pressure that goes beyond sermons and statistics. And that support comes most strongly from women. Now, let's look a little deeper at the female factor overall in outlawing prostitution. And hey, as a reminder, if I make a substantive mistake here, yell at me in the comments and I'll address it in the description box below. I also have a link to my script and my research notes. Okay, so polling data shows females are much less likely than men to support legalized prostitution. The gap
That's true.
runs about 10 to 20 percentage points, depending on the country and depending on the survey. Men more often take the libertarian point of view, talking about freedom of choice and consenting adults. Women, they more often describe prostitution as exploitation. The pattern holds across most of the world and across age groups and education levels. Women consistently oppose legalizing prostitution more than men do. In the instances where women weren't around that much, the prostitution trade boomed. Take a look at the California gold rush of 1849. In some camps, the ratio of men to women was 50-1. That scarcity made prostitution not only common, but openly so. Brothels and dance halls, they were major moneymakers, and the women who migrated there found they could earn quite a bit. Everyone looked the other way until civilization encroached. And that civilization was carried forward, especially with women. The Purity Crusade of the late 1800s and the early 1900s was powered by women's groups, especially after they got the right to vote. Those groups provided the political muscle that the church doctrine alone couldn't deliver. The church built the vocabulary, sin, exploitation, moral decay, and women helped turn that into policy. Groups like the Women's Christian Temperance Union and the Female Moral Reform Societies, they organized petitions, they testified at hearings, they aggressively lobbied politicians for vice crackdowns. Early efforts also include opening rescue homes for prostitutes. The Mann Act, which made it a federal crime to transport a woman for prostitution, passed in 1910, again with the support from a coalition of religious leaders and women's groups. And
The Mann Act, that's what they got Diddy on, right? Still, even today.
beneath the moral language and the broader concerns were more practical ones as well. I mean, women didn't want their husbands bringing home disease, and they didn't want their family money spent on brothels.
The number one reason, and he doesn't say this, and I was going to let him finish, and I will. The number one reason why women who are my body, my choice advocates, correct, don't want men to have legalized prostitution is because they lose leverage. That's it. Everything else is bullshit. Whether, their husbands are going to go cheat and bringing home diseases. Well, men are doing that right now. Unfortunately, especially the ones on the down low. The number one reason why women, whether they're married or not, don't want unfettered prostitution across the states is because they lose leverage, because men, and rightfully so, will ignore their demands, right? That's why, everything else is bullshit. The bottom line is that women want to be able to have that leverage over men, and if they can go pay for it, that's what men will do, pay for it. So some of the statistics about lowering marriage rates, well, they're low now anyway. That's because men get screwed in marriage for the most part. A lot of them do. So the point really is that women vote now, and unfortunately, there's a lot of men who vote with their women. And I don't know, I'm not necessarily an advocate for sex being legalized, but essentially it already is.
Dynamic hasn't changed, although among feminists today, there's deep disagreement about prostitution. Anti-prostitution feminists see it as essentially sexual slavery. They argue that no woman can truly consent to prostitution when you consider the broader inequalities in power and resources. They often push the Nordic model, which arrests buyers and treats sellers as victims who need rescue. Sex-positive feminists argue the opposite. To them, prostitution is labor. Sex workers deserve the same rights as any other workers, with safety and legal protections. And groups like Amnesty International agree, and they endorse full legalization worldwide.
So guess what side? Who do you think is winning? The anti-prostitution feminists? They're the same women who are talking about, one thing that both sides of the feminist movement agree on is my body, my choice. Women should be able to do what they want to do. So even though legislation hasn't changed the way the anti-prostitution feminists want, I think the feminists who want prostitution are winning. They're on social media talking about it right now.
It's a serious debate, and both sides claim to speak for women's interests, but both sides can't be right. Still, only one side is really winning. The anti-prostitution view dominates policy across almost all of the world. The sex-positive feminists have academic support and some high-profile advocates, but they still don't have the votes or the political power that comes from that. But without women's influence, prostitution laws would look very different. You'd absolutely see more legal brothels and decriminalization.
That's true.
You'd see politicians willing to touch the issue without fear of a backlash. Instead, prostitution is illegal almost everywhere. It's not a conspiracy or behind-the-scenes power grab. It's governments responding to what their citizens, especially women, want their society to look like. So,
yeah, but it's, again, we're giving the women too much credit on that. I mean, because there's a lot of men who vote like the way their women vote in terms of prostitution laws. So it's not just the women. But de facto, prostitution has already been legalized from the standpoint it's been decriminalized, at least in how hard that they're going after women who are selling bogs. That's undeniable. So will legislation come around? Well, legislation kind of lags a lot, but I'm not so sure that it can stop this freight train from moving, because it's already in that direction. And wait till AI robots come out and just private deals and social media and DMs and things of that nature. That's just going on everywhere. IG models a lot of them are essentially prostitutes. So it might not be legal, but it's going on and nobody's going to jail. So that's another tipping point that at some point, just like marijuana has been illegal, but the power of people wanting to smoke reefer has been so much that laws started to change, whether the Puritans wanted to change or not. Right? So we'll see. But I think women want to hang on to that leverage more than any morality play that you're talking about. It's the leverage that they want. And for right now, they might be winning, but only on paper. Only on paper. Because behind the scenes, women are selling box like crazy, and it's being glorified. And that's what we're going to get to next, right? It's being glorified. It's not like it's not being glorified. You know what I'm saying? So I got this clip that I wanted to show you guys from Bill Maher, one of his shows. And it's kind of weird, but he and anybody who wants to come up and say anything can too. So we're gonna do his new rule. Then we're not gonna show the whole thing, just a little piece of it. All right.
Finally, new rule. You got to give me more than a week to get used to a new word or phrase or name for what we call something. We did this with homeless until it was unhoused. We did this with illegal alien until it was undocumented migrant. We did this with midget until it was, how dare you? We say little people now. And now we're doing it with prostitute. I don't know if you saw the Academy Awards this year, but I'm just going to say it. Whores are having a moment.
I also just want to again recognize and honor the sex worker community.
Okay, the last chick that was on was from the movie Honora. She plays a prostitute. We're gonna get back to her in a second. Actually, that movie was pretty funny. I gotta say, I didn't go to the movies to see it, but I saw it on streaming. It wasn't that bad. I don't know whether she should have got an Oscar, but she wasn't that bad, and the movie wasn't that bad.
To thank the sex worker community.
Wow, 3 weeks ago it was a bunch of hoes, and now it's a community. And look, I'm all for it. Just maybe give me an alert on my phone or something when we're making the upgrade. Because it's kind of funny how it's only been a few weeks, and I already know people who, if you use the word prostitute, they will glare at you like you forgot a reusable bag at Whole Foods. But my question is, if it's such an important liberal cause, why didn't you do it 10 years ago, or 20, or in 1975? Maybe I should be copying an attitude with you. Because, no, I remember in the 90s on my old show, Politically Incorrect. Thank you. Nicely remember. No, I remember speaking in support of the idea that prostitution should be legalized, and it was considered very politically incorrect. It was certainly not the liberal point of view back then. It was the libertarian point of view. But you know, in America, if you don't like the position of any particular political faction, just wait, they'll switch it up. A few years ago, the New York Post ran a story about a paramedic who couldn't make ends meet, and so started an OnlyFans to pay her bills, and then got publicly shamed for it. And Congressman Ocasio-Cortez tweeted in her defense, "Sex work is work."
Listen, let me ask you guys a question. Is OnlyFans really as completely debilitating like it used to be? I mean, so many women are just doing it, right? I guess it depends on how much life you have to live left to live, or if you're trying to get a traditional job, maybe. But we know that everybody doesn't get rich on OnlyFans. But is the stigma there the way it used to be? I'm not so sure. And whatever stigma is there, isn't it kind of waning a little bit? Because women are still flocking to it. They ain't all becoming millionaires, but it's not like people hiding it.
Well, first of all, sex shouldn't be work at all. You wives know what I'm talking about. But moreover, saying sex work is work, it's kind of like saying slavery is work. Yes, strictly speaking, but is that really the message we want to be sending? A few weeks ago, I did a new rule here where I mentioned all the actresses, 21 in all, who have been nominated for an Oscar, and many of whom have won for playing a sex worker. And tonight, I'd like to apologize to the other 20 who were nominated, who I didn't even have time to put on the list. Really, I swear to God, there's 20 more hooker portrayers who were nominated, and some other big star hooker portrayers who didn't even get a nomination. Please, won't you take a moment to honor them all?
You know, but the point really is that he's making is that, hey, what's going on, coach? What's happening, man? Why don't you, if you want to, man, come on up, brother. Oh, wait, what am I doing? You know, how you doing, coach? What's happening, man? I see you over there. Anyway, what's going on? Haven't seen you in a coon's age, brother. Anyway, anyhow, so yeah, like I said, I just think that, you know, based on the guy I had on last, you know, the heart's in the right place, but both the church and whatever church you're talking about and the state, they don't, you know, there's nobody advocating for marriage. And it seems like, you know, morals and whatever governors that we had over sex are just falling like just falling to the wayside. Women are openly, and I'm gonna get to a couple of clips on that, but women are openly selling box, and nobody seems to care. And I think business is booming, you know, out in the open. You know, and the only bad part of it is, yeah, we got to watch out for the actual trafficking part of it. But women seem to be okay with trafficking themselves. Let's put it to you that way. And they're doing it in droves, and they're doing it without remorse, and they're making money. Some of them are paying taxes, and some of them are going on to live decent lives after they're finished, because there's always going to be a man who's going to cuff up a woman no matter what she's done in her past. You know, there's no amount of shaming that's going to change that. That shit is happening, right? You know, well-to-do guys or guys who don't have to do that, they'll say, nah, I'm not accepting that kind of woman. But there's guys out there accepting any kind of woman no matter what she's done, right? So there you have it. You know, so I just say that it's funny because my music, I always thought about how with my music, my AI music, I like to do themes about things. And we were talking about whores one day, and I had a jingle about whores, and I thought it was pretty good. Yeah, you can renegade whores. I don't know, man. We call them sweet whores, man. You know, everybody wants them. You know, there's women who it's a good thing. So we got some more, but before we move on to the clips of the women talking about, you know, openly talking about being whores, we got to pay a little bit more tribute to them. All right. And I'm willing to do that. All right. So we're gonna have some tribute to the whores out there. Yeah.
The cities glow where shadows dance. They move like whispers of fleeting glance. Hearts adorned with stories untold. In midnight's embrace, the warmth unfolds. Oh, sweet hearts of the moonlit night, carrying dreams in the soft twilight. Laughter like honey, they mend the souls. And their tender arms, the broken feel whole. In smoky borders where the secrets lie, they weave their magic while the world passes by. With a smile that shines like the brightest star, they paint the night with who they are. Oh, sweet horse of the moonlit night, carrying dreams in the soft twilight. With magic like honey, they mend the souls. In their tender arms, the broken broken feel whole. They carry the weight of unspoken sins, yet in their laughter a new life begins. For love is a currency openly spent in each fleeting moment. Your heart's are lent. So casing the ones who love with no shame in the world that tries to strip them of names. May the spirits soar, may the stories be free, for the sweet horrors are part of tapestry. Oh, sweet horrors of the moonlit night, carrying dreams in soft twilight. Laughter like honey, they mend our souls, and they tenderize the broken feel whole. So raise up your glass to the ones who care, and their warmth and kindness we all can share. For in the heart's chamber we're all intertwined, to the sweethearts of the night, your love always mine.
All right, so give it up to the sweet horrors of the moonlit night. Anyway, so I just tell you, that's just the way it is. You know, prostitution is going to be with us, and it's going that way. So are there some states other than Nevada thinking about prostitution and thinking about legalizing it? I just found one, you know, so we're going to share that with you too. You know, there are some states thinking about legalizing prostitution. This is recent. I just found this state willing to do that. So let's check it out. All right, let's check it out. And it's funny is that it's this state with all the illegal aliens. It's Illinois.
Illinois be the first state in the nation to legalize prostitution.
Lawmakers in Springfield are debating a bill that would do just that and create a sex workers' bill of rights.
Yeah, Sylvia and Terrence, it's called the Keeping Sex Workers Safe Act, and the idea is to bring this industry out of the shadows to protect what can be very dangerous for those involved. It also creates a sex worker bill of rights that gives those workers the same protections and access to health and benefits that any other worker has. Now, State Representative Will Guzzardi of Chicago is a sponsor and says Illinois should lead the way.
Adults should be able to engage in consensual sexual activity without government interference. And people who are being coerced and trafficked and forced through violence to engage in sexual activity, that's a crime and it should remain a crime. And that's all our bill does. And I think it's a really important step forward for our state.
Now, the bill also prohibits any sort of discrimination against someone who's a sex worker. Now, in 2013, the state reduced the crime of prostitution from a felony down to a misdemeanor, and that resulted in a reported 97% reduction in prostitution arrests. So essentially, police have stopped policing it. But Republicans in the General Assembly say legalizing sex work could lead to more of it and more potential exploitation of women and minors.
All right, so again, so here we are. Saying what the Republicans say. Now, remember now, Illinois is in open rebellion against the Republicans and Donald Trump. So if they have statistics that says, you know, that, you know, it's been decriminalized already, nobody's policing it, you know, where is the explosion of prostitution? You know, people are not waiting for it to be completely legal. I mean, it's under control. Now, the sex trafficking part is going to always be hard. And I'm not so sure that I'm an advocate one way or the other, but Illinois, just like every other liberal blue state, is pretty much run by women. there might be men at the top, but the women are the hardcore voters. And if this thing has been brought to legislation and it might pass, would we say that women are behind it or with it? Okay, so that kind of contradicts what the guy said in that other video, that women won't let this shit happen. I'm not so sure it's true, especially in these blue states where almost anything goes. So here it is. This is Illinois. This is not Nevada, you know, where there's semi-legalization in certain areas already. So I don't know. It's coming here. So you think of men gonna start flocking over to Illinois? I don't think so. I don't really think so. I just think it's just going to be one of those kind of things. Cause, like I said, women are selling box all over the place. I think this shit could pass and it'll be like invisible to the user. The guys who want sex will just go out and pay for it. The guys who don't won't. They'll just be happy that it's there.
We know here in Illinois that most people don't start in prostitution of their free will. We also know that this doesn't start as adults. The average age of trafficking victimization starts at 12 to 13 years old. I feel that if we do normalize prostitution and legalize it, it's a disservice to those people who just never wanted to be there in the first place.
All right, so, well, nobody says normalize. They say, listen, legalize it. I can see a woman say, this is the woman who will be against it. But the truth of the matter, again, the only reason why women are against it is not because they're worried about the 13-year-old and all that. It's because they don't want to lose whatever leverage they have over men. It's as simple as that.
Now, this bill is currently being debated in Springfield, and these next few weeks, Sylvia and Terrence, will get a sense of what bills are going to pass and what bills are going to die as lawmakers are in the middle of their session. It's heating up, and they have until the end of May.
All right, so obviously, if this was back in May, it didn't happen. All right, because we haven't heard any kind of announcement that they legalized prostitution. So, there you have it. But it's in the works. If they're talking about it, it's in the works. No, okay. So yeah, is that, well? That's no, yeah, okay. So at least listen. If it's only in one place in Nevada, that's fine. But it's there. You can go and not worry about getting in trouble. And I think they have strict laws about using condoms and stuff like that, or else the ladies will get in trouble. The Johns can't pay their way out of that in those brothels. I would imagine they might do it in some places. But anyhow, like I said, I'm not an advocate one way or the other, but I think it's a train that can't be stopped. You know, nobody's going to stop women from selling the box. You know, they're doing it all over. It could be as legal as hell. It's happening everywhere. It's happening everywhere. There you go. Right. Well, I could disagree about trafficking because we're not always talking about women, right? Some of them are little young kids, young girls, young boys, so they don't have no choice. So even if it's not a trafficking situation, most states have statutory laws where we say that under a certain age, no matter how sexual active you are, depending on who you're having sex with, it's illegal. You know, so I mean, there's a juggle in that, no doubt about it. But for the most part, women are going to sell box no matter what the law is, because it doesn't have to always be that blatant. There's a barter system going on. You know, for example, I mean, men have always bartered with women for sex, correct? I mean, if you're a landlord and you have, you know, a big tenement complex, you know, there'll probably be a few women here and there who can't pay the rent. They might offer up some box, you know, and you might make a deal with them under the covers, you know, about paying for their rent with sex. That's just got to be going on everywhere, especially now that it's, you know, times are tough. People are losing jobs. Man, you know, box is being sold everywhere or bartered everywhere. You know, so I don't know. I mean, we could waste time tracking down women selling their body, their choice. But if you legalize it, will it go out of control any more than it already is? I'm not so sure. I am not so sure. All right, so do I have something? I have one more that I want to show about a couple of ladies openly selling whatever they're selling. Okay, they are selling box, and let's just get that out of the way. It's a couple of ladies, a couple of honeys. All right. Clicking my ass off here. And it's just in succession.
Okay.
This lady here is talking about, hey, it's Christmas time, and this is how she thinks 304 should behave during this time.
This is going to be a 304 post. So if you're not a 304, or if you don't want to know about 304 shit, click off the video. Okay. It's so good. But anyways, it's holiday season, hoes. It's time to lock in. And I'm not talking about making money. I'm talking about your safety. Everyone has their preference on which clients they see and do not see. But on the collective ones that we don't see, and y'all know who I'm talking about, now is not the time to fuck around with them motherfuckers and to screen extra hard. I still see them, but this time of year, it's mainly regulars, and I scream like a bitch because this is not the time of year you want to link up with hoes. This is not the time of year you want to sit here and be like, oh, I want some hoe partners. Let's go break. This is not the time of year. If you ain't never worked with that bitch before, don't do it this year. And if you have worked with that bitch before, don't do it this year. The only time it benefits you to have a hoe partner is if you're freestyling in the streets of Chicago. Free game. But anything outside of that, you need to be solo and you need to be locked the fuck in. And you need to be making sure that you're on your P's and your motherfucking Q's. Stay 10 toes down to yourself, bitch. To yourself. Because this is the time of year that people get desperate. This is the time of year that girls start getting choked out in their rooms, that people start getting lit, people start coming and they're on that holiday festivity energy. It's the time of year that people get desperate and they want to rob you. This is the time of year that people want to start recruiting because they need that extra money for the holidays to make it seem like they're not a not shit ass pee for their bitch. This is that time of year where people start really seeing who is going up for them and who's not, who's staying 10 toes down and who needs to break off. It's that time of year. So this is just a friendly reminder to be on your shit, to understand that not everybody's your friend and stings are at an all-time high. Your favorite spot may be hot. You know, maybe this is a time of year where you stack up really quickly and then just take the last 2 weeks of December off and get back in or go interview at a brothel. All the brothels are hiring right now because it's holiday season. So if you have the privilege to do that, because it's a privilege to be able to work at a brothel, go and do that. Anything else? Ignore my wig. But
You
anything
need to take that damn wig off and wash your hair, goddammit. That's probably what you need to do.
else, you should be good. Just be smart, but be smarter than usuals. I know, blade work. You got to do what you got to do. It's good money, but just be careful, ho. Be careful. I suggest getting some self-defense classes, some martial arts, learning how to make someone pass out very quickly without a lot of force. I don't know why some of y'all don't take self-defense classes. It really would benefit you. That's why I don't ever be worried about a bitch talking about running up on me. Bitch, I will hurt you for real, okay? I will hurt you for real. I don't play about my safety. But yeah, y'all, just keep that in mind and happy trapping. Happy holidays.
All right. This particular one here, she trips me out too. But go ahead. Let's go.
These young Black NBA stars literally don't learn from each other's mistakes. Anthony Edwards, Aisha Howard. She's an old 304. Her market value is diminished. She's not making as much money as she used to. So what she's going to do, at almost 40 years old, she's going to get pregnant by a wealthy man to live off the child support. This is the 304 playbook. Once their 304 days are over, because a 36-year-old 304 there's no competition with a hot 22-year-old 304, point blank period. Men will naturally gravitate towards the younger women. I know old hoes think with the Botox and the filler and the facelift and the good skincare that you're going to keep up. Bitch, we can see your neck. We see your hands. We know you're old. Okay. The fact that you've been ridden hard and put away wet shows on your body. There's no amount of money is going to take that away.
You know, she's trying to spit the game to these guys. I'm surprised she didn't mention Drea Michelle, because she's really at the top of the list. She's got her bag sold all the way up until 60, 61, 62.
So when they realize their expiration date is basically there, and since they have fostered nothing to provide society with besides being on their back with their legs open, what they do is they get pregnant by these rich men, and that is their retirement. So Aisha Howard, at almost 40 years old, had a baby with a young man. He would have been 22 at the time. And now he's going to have to pay her $20,000 to $30,000 a month. Plus, she has a baby by a popular rapper who's probably paying her at least $15,000 to $20,000 a month. So she just secured $40,000 to $50,000 a month in child support. Point blank. Period.
I think her numbers are off. Now, this last one is she's talking about. This one here, she's talking about herself and what she does for a living.
For money, I give lap dances for money, and I post content online for money. And here are my unpopular opinions that are related to my industry. Number one is I don't have a problem with seeing married or engaged clients or clients that are in relationships. I have clients that are in relationships come and see me pretty much every day that I work. At the end of the day, they're paying me, and a part of my service is discretion, and I am going to keep that a secret. No one's ever going to know that I saw them. I'm never going to go and search and find out who their partner is. It's none of my business. They pay me. We do the service. My bills get paid. My mortgage gets paid. We move on with our life. Do I feel
back to that comment that's up there right now? From now to the end of time, men are going to be trapped with that same game. It's not going to stop. It's absolutely not going to stop. No, there is no amount of game and no amount of way that one man or one woman could tell another man not to be an idiot with his Johnson. That's just going to continue to happen as long as men have money. Not every man going to do it. Some guys, you know, it could be a lot worse, but we're going to, every single year, we're going to have several stories about men being stupid about their discipline. That shit ain't never, ever going away. Never. That's the answer. Never going away.
feel guilty about it? No, I don't. Sometimes I've had clients come and see me and do this whole role play of like, I'm cheating on my wife with you. And I just know for a fact they don't have a wife. It's just some weird like cheating fantasy that they have. Like, I can't even confirm that everyone that comes to me and says, oh, I'm married, I'm engaged, I'm in a relationship. I can't even confirm if that's true. Like, some people just have weird fantasies. And it's been quite a trend lately where I've had clients pay me extra to do like dirty talk about like how I'm their little secret and like their wife doesn't know about me. Like, I think that, yeah, I'll actually never know. So I'm not going to let myself feel guilty. It's not worth my energy to sit here and feel bad about it. Number two, this isn't very unpopular. This is actually probably really popular. I just made a video about it before. OnlyFans agencies run by men and escorting agencies run by men. Don't agree with it. I understand the need for agencies. I think they should be run by women. Or I think that if a man is running it, he needs to have experience in the industry himself. So he needs to be a retired Magic Mike or retired queer escort. Like, I don't want you taking a percentage of what I'm doing when you don't understand what I'm actually doing. You don't know what my brain is going through. You don't know what my body's going through. Because these people that run these agencies and take a percentage of what you're doing that haven't done it themselves, they push you. They make you feel guilty because you working makes them.
You know what? Listen, the fact is she's a misandrist a little bit, because I can see why women who are prostitutes have a certain amount of disdain for men. There's no doubt about that. I think it's a natural kind of inclination because of the kind of clients that they have. You know, they probably disgust these women. But she's talking about a man shouldn't be in charge of these agencies because he hasn't been through it. But I can guarantee you that there's women who are in charge of certain agencies and they're probably 10 times worse than any man on their women. You know what I'm saying? They might not have gone through it either, but it's okay because they're women. That doesn't mean they understand what you're going through. They don't give a shit as long as the money's flowing, honey. So up until head, I agree with her, but I do also agree with a lot of these women. They might have sex with men, but they hold men in absolute contempt, and maybe rightfully so.
Money, but you're not always in the right mind space to work. And there's nothing more painful than like, hey, I don't feel comfortable doing this booking today. I just got my period, or I'm just not feeling good about it. And then someone like coercing you or trying to, it's just not right for so many reasons. I could talk about it for hours. My other unpopular opinion, I know that it's popular within the industry, but just in society, it's not very popular, is that sex work is so vital for society. I think that we provide a really, really important service. Obviously, not everyone is willing to provide this service. That's why married men come to me, because their women aren't providing them this service. Do you know what I mean? And that's why my work is so stigmatized, because not everyone wants to do it. People think it's dirty and blah, blah, blah. I think it's really important. I think that my job actually changes lives. And someone has to help the men's loneliness epidemic, the male loneliness epidemic. And it's going to be me. No, but genuinely, I do think that it is a really important service. There are people that are lonely. There are people that need someone to talk to. There's people that just need touch. There's people that need attention.
There you go.
And there's people that don't have time to go and seek it in the real world. Like, not everyone that's paying for it is paying for it because they're desperate or ugly or lonely or weird or autistic. People have really busy lives and they don't have time to go to a bar and pick someone up. They don't have time to get on dating apps. They've got time to put my name into Google, send me a text, and send me a deposit, and I'll be there in an hour. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, we know what you mean, baby. She's right on top of it. I think she's probably very successful at what she does. She covered the whole gamut from the incel all the way to the guy who doesn't have no time, to the lady who ain't putting out for her husband. She got you all covered. And, rightfully so. But this woman, her identity is right there, right? She's saying what she does. She's selling it. And she has no fear that somebody's coming after her, and I can dig it. I can really dig it. I mean, that's where it is. Now, does that mean that we should just go ahead on all 50 states legalize prostitution? Well, like I said, it's de facto decriminalized everywhere. The toughest ones are on the ones who walk the street because they're low-hanging fruit. But behind the scenes, women are selling box all over the place. And it's almost like a victimless crime, right? Especially if the Johns just are really on business and they just pay their way and they pay the women to leave. And this is another reason why guys like Sharon Moore and guys like Ime Udoka and men who destroy their bag over fooling around with women in their organizations. That's why I don't understand. If you're a multimillionaire, it's easy for you to find a woman like this to take care of you. You pay her to leave, right? You pay her to leave. And I don't see why men of means don't just do that instead of getting themselves into trouble and in scandals and blowing the bag over some box. But again, men are men, and women understand that they have a commodity. And, if you take the morality out of it, women are always going to barter their sexuality, and men are going to always be willing participants one way or the other. That's just not going to change. It was true in 2025 BC, and it's true in 2025 and 2026 AD, and it's going to be true for the rest of our lives. It's just the way it is. And so maybe there's better ways for us to regulate it and to take advantage of it. But women have seen the advantage that it gives them. And of course, there's just layers to it. So anyway, I mean, I just wanted to throw this out here because it's different for me. I don't talk about prostitution one way or the other. Am I for it? I'm a hypocrite. I don't care if it's legal or not, but I have daughters. I wouldn't want them to be prostitutes for money. Definitely not. So I'll admit it, that my hypocrisy right there. I will not accept them being it, but if a woman chooses to do it, I'm not going to want to throw them in jail for it, because one way or the other, I think all women at one point or the other bartered their sexuality for something they wanted at some point, whether it's whatever, at some point. I would imagine if you were sexually active, you done it at some point. I'm not saying straight put the money on the table and that's it. But when I say barter, I mean barter. There's something you wanted from a guy, and there was something he wanted from you, and there's usually just one thing. Okay? And any woman who hasn't done that, more power to you. I'm proud of you. How about that? Okay. How about that? So anyway, this wasn't going to be a long one. I just thought I'd throw this out here. I don't know, for some reason, I'm thinking people just like to hear me ramble for an hour or two for some reason or the other. But I'll keep trying to put some topics out there that people like. And maybe I'll have to force fit a panel in here somewhere where people want to come up and say their piece. But okay, so again, I'm glad it's Monday night. Football. Hey, any of you sports fans, both Kansas City and Baltimore, they're done. I don't think Baltimore is going to overtake Pittsburgh. They're 2 games out with 2 games left. Pittsburgh is winning 1 game, they're in. And Baltimore's out, Kansas City's out. So dig that. Anyway, so I'll leave you with this last thing, and we're going to say good night after it. So this is an AI rendition of the fact that women like to sell bars. And we'll end it on this note, and that's it. Check this out. Y'all tell me how y'all like this, by the way. Okay. All right. Let me get it. There you go. Oh, where's the thing at?
In a world of pent-up desire, I got something to share. A box of hope to enjoy and share. Passing through the streets without making a scene. Sending out the kindness like you never seen. Open and wide, let the love flow with us. I am sending the box, it's a service of mine. Spreading the joy, every piece inside. Community vibes, let's ignite and entwine. In this box of love, no worries to find. Few treasures like warmth in the night. Every little piece, it just feels so right. It's not just about profit, it's your heart's decree. This box I am selling, it's a remedy. Take what you need, let your spirit free. selection.
All right. So yeah, so she's selling the box, you know. I just thought I'd play it that way instead of being too, nasty about it. But chicks are selling the box. And I think it's not going to get less. It's going to be more and more blatant. Social media has changed the game. Once again, women are boldly going where no man or every man or most men have gone before. How about that? Or at least a lot of men have gone before. So that's all I have. It's a nice, quick Monday. I just wanted to throw that out there. I think prostitution will be decriminalized across the states, not because of any legislation. People just don't have the bandwidth of going after all the women who are selling their wares. It's just one of those kind of things. And I think if they came down on it, I think it will be even worse when men don't have even that outlet to go to, right? So it's an outlet. And just like the lady at the end said, that she thinks she's doing a community service by selling her box. And I don't know if we could really disagree with her. So with that, another happy Monday. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays to everybody. We'll see you on the other side of Christmas. Enjoy the season. Hey, that other lady was on there saying this is holiday time for her. So she's going to have fun this week because some men are going to, pay her money for her box as a Christmas present to themselves. So with that, paying your favorite baby boomer. Yeah, here's one for the sweet whores of the moonlit night. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. Later.